In order to add a sensor to your ELPRO Cloud account, click on the button Add Sensor. The process is structured in an easy-to-use 5-steps wizard. As the first step, you need to identify the measurement module you would like to add by entering its ID number, which you can find on the module's front side. In our case, we are registering an Ecolog Pro 1 NTR sensor. The ID number for this type of module is an S followed by a 6-digit number. Click on Next to proceed to the wizard's second step. Now, provide the sensor's basic settings. Enter a name for the sensor. Define the logging interval and select the unit for your temperature measurements. Optionally, you may add an additional description for your sensor in the field Memo. Please be aware that logging intervals shorter than 10 minutes will increase the yearly license fee, which is displayed in the lower right corner. As this demo account is for a Swiss company, license fees are subject to local Swiss taxes. Hence, don't be confused if you will see different prices for your account. Click again on Next to move to the next step. In case you want to define alarm limits, activate the corresponding checkbox. If you have already defined alarm limits profiles for previous sensors, you can select one of them from the drop-down list, or you can define a new profile. Set a meaningful name for your profile which allows you to easily identify it for further usage. Define the upper limit value. An upper limit alarm will be triggered if this temperature is exceeded. Define now the delay for your upper limit alarms. In our example, we choose to go for a delay of 3 logging intervals, each interval counting 10 minutes, which means that an alarm will only be triggered after 3 intervals have been above the defined alarm limit, in our case 30 minutes. Define now the lower limit value and again the corresponding delay. Finally, specify whether you would like to receive alarm messages via email and/or SMS messages. Please keep in mind that SMS messages are subject to additional costs. Click on the Next button to proceed to the fourth step. Now we need to specify our settings for sensor issue alarms and warnings. Again, activate the corresponding checkbox if you want to receive sensor issue alarms and warnings. If you have already defined sensor issue profiles for previously added sensors, you can simply select them from the drop-down list. Or again, we can define a new profile. We have to define a profile name again. Then we can select from 4 different types of alarms and warnings we wish to be notified about. The first alarm, missing value alarm, will be triggered in case measurement values are not received in the expected interval. We can again define a delay. We recommend setting a delay of at least 1 interval for sensors with a logging interval of 10 minutes and a delay of 3 logging intervals for sensors running in a shorter logging interval. This is because with radio signals there is always a chance for external interference that could interrupt connection or delay transmission of the measurement value. A second type of alarm, a sensor failure alarm, is triggered if the measurement value recorded is implausible, which normally means that the sensor is broken. Hence, this alarm is hardly triggered, but we recommend activating this alarm as it indicates a severe issue with the measurement module. The third alarm, radio strength warnings, allow being notified in case the radio connection becomes weak or even bad, defined via the corresponding drop-down list. Again, set a meaningful delay of a couple of logging intervals to prevent from receiving too many warning messages. Finally, we recommend activating warnings for a low battery status. Also, for sensor issue alarms and warnings, specify whether you want to be notified via email and/or SMS. Click on Next to get to the final page where you can see a summary of your configuration. In the lower part of this page, you can define your payment method. If you have a coupon at your hands, enter the code in the corresponding field and submit it, which will reduce the amount payable by the coupon's value. Confirm that you have read and understood the general conditions and related privacy policy for ELPRO Cloud and click on Buy and Start Sensor. You have now a 10-minute time window to physically connect the measurement module. We demonstrate this in a separate video. As soon as the module was connected successfully, this will be indicated in the software. Click on OK to close the wizard. In the dashboard view, you will now see the newly added sensor. Depending on the logging interval, it can take a couple of minutes until you will see the first measured value.